This video is rated B for you'd better back on out of here if you don't want spoilers, buddy. Desire and fantasies can be powerful. The idea of something greater than ourselves or the dream of a brighter future fills many with the determination to push through life's hardest trials. Even acts of kindness are often done in the belief of a greater good. But these desires can become twisted or zealous and even fanatical. People are willing to believe in almost anything when desperate enough. So what do you do in a world where enough aether and blind devotion to something can create a god? What do you do when someone summons a primal? First, we must ask ourselves, what really is a primal? A primal, or icon if you're a member of the Garlean/Allegan Empire, is an idea given form. Indeed, primals are nothing more than fervent thoughts and desires being projected into reality and then stimulated into being by aether. In truth, a primal could be anything if someone believed in it enough. But this isn't a simple case of wishing a godlike being would save you. You must honestly believe without a doubt in your mind that this creature will arrive if you call it. This is why you almost never see anyone civilized successfully creating one. They have no need to dream of a spirit that'll save them when they feel the adventurers in their town or city will keep them safe. Even the slightest doubt that you don't really need or desire the primal's existence will cause the summoning to fail. But there are groups in our world that are so desperate to survive during this age of chaotic change that they'll call upon anything just to see tomorrow. This is why we always see primals arising from the beast tribes. The beast tribes of our world are typically more primitive races that have yet to be integrated into a major civilization for one reason or another. The most common reason is that the philosophy a beast tribe follows is usually at odds with the desires of a city-state in one or more ways. That typically leaves the beast tribes without allies and left to their own devices in the harsh wilderness. Normally, this suits them just fine. Most beast tribes try to live comfortably in their own lands in different parts of the world. However, the common problem is that these tribes are usually seen as in the way of rapidly growing countries. A common example is how early Limsa originally made a deal with the local kobolds, promising that they'd leave the beast tribe and their lands alone in exchange for small favors and boons. This original agreement was beneficial to both sides for a long time, but Limsa continued to grow over the years. More people needs more resources. More resources needs more land. Land that the kobolds had plenty of. Eventually, Limsa broke their honored bargain with the kobolds, taking more and more lands and eventually almost taking complete control over the entire island of Vilbren. The confused and scared kobolds didn't know what to do or who to turn towards now that their ally had turned against them. In their desperation, they prayed to their deity, Titan, the Lord of Crags, for salvation. It was then that a black-robed figure stood before them, telling the kobolds that if they truly desired to see their god bring justice to Limsa, they would teach them. Without any other real choices, the kobolds agreed, and were taught the elaborate ceremony of summoning. Through desperate prayer and the honest wish to see their lord protect them, they succeeded, and the primal of Earth, Titan, was summoned. As you can tell, the kobolds weren't the only beast tribe to receive a black-robed visitor who was eager to teach them the art of primal summoning. Many beast tribes shared the desire to survive against the rapid growth of city-states and the overzealous nature of some adventurers. The temptation of their gods coming down from on high to deliver them to salvation was too tempting an offer, despite the feeling that they were being used. For generations, the beast tribes told stories of their gods being the fathers, mothers, or guardian of their race. The faith and visualization was already there. It wasn't until they were living off of the scraps left behind by the 7th Umbral Calamity that they became so desperate they would give anything to survive. So with the teachings of the Ascians, many beast tribes around the world began to summon primals, and in doing so, began a vicious cycle that has yet to truly be broken. But what about the summoning of a primal makes it so different and dangerous? The Arcanist Guild already teaches ways to summon forth aether-based entities known as carbuncles. Because of how little aether is needed, these furry creatures aren't a danger to the summoner if they use their own aether, and aren't a danger to the land if they use ambient aether. Not only that, they're easily dismissed, dissolving any possibility that they could be a threat to the summoner or the land. Primals are different. As we just discussed, one of the conditions for the summoning ritual is absolute faith and belief. The other is excessive amounts of aether. The summoning of primals demands massive amounts of elemental crystals or ambient aether just to successfully conjure them. Even after coming into being, their very existence steadily drains the natural aether of the world around them. Like a parasite, their lives devour aether, slowly warping the land and destroying everything with their continued existence. An example of how terrifying this is the burn. This section of the world was turned to a lifeless husk due to the excessive summoning of primals. The burn is why no country can or ever will condone their summoning. Their existence literally kills the world. So why do the races or people that summon primals keep doing so if it's so dangerous to them? The answer to that is one of the most lethal powers a primal has: tempering. Tempering is a power all primals possess that places those afflicted by it under their thrall. Think of it like brainwashing. Once tempered, all you can think about or believe in is the absolute power and authority of that primal. That way, even if the primal is defeated, a group of tempered individuals will have all the faith and devotion needed to summon them all over again. In fact, tempered creatures are so fanatical, they'll go out of their way to summon their primal without hesitation, no matter what the cost is, just so they can serve their god all over again. Primals don't just temper the beast tribes that summon them either. They're able to temper any and all sentient races into becoming willing slaves. That's why tempered beast tribes will often take hostages for their primals to temper. More brainwashed people means more faith. More faith means stronger primals as their collective vision of a perfect god becomes more uniform. Tempering is like a disease that turns even good people into a primal's zombie-like soldier. And for the longest time, there was considered to be no cure for tempering since no one fully understood how it worked. Adventurers would drag their tempered teammates away from primals only to hear them scream about how perfect their god is and how all should serve it. Originally, the only cure for tempering was a quick death, since a single tempered individual could go about trying to summon a primal all over again. The process of creating minions through tempering is normal for a primal, and the more time spent in the primal's presence, the more the individual becomes something monstrous. It starts with the tempering, brainwashing someone into thinking only about the primal itself by disturbing the person's aether towards an alignment that favors the entity's control. As this alignment gets more severe, the more the person will start to resemble a creature born of that affinity. For instance, someone tempered by Leviathan will start out looking normal, if not fanatical. But the more of Leviathan's aether they're exposed to, the more they'll slowly turn more fish-like, gaining features like gills, tentacles, or even fins, eventually completely losing their mind and becoming a hopeless monster for the Primal to control. While we've recently found a cure for tempering, there doesn't seem to be a cure for those who are transformed just yet. This is because the aether that makes up their being is so disturbed at this point, it's considered corrupted and too damaged to even find a way to balance it out again. So, we've discussed the most common reason most modern primals are born, how they're made, and why they're seen as a threat to the world. But what about the types of primals? Your typical primal is usually associated with some form of elemental affinity. Water for Leviathan, fire for Ifrit, and lightning for Ramu, just to name a few. While all primals are unbelievably powerful because of the faith and aether fueled to make them, there are some that go beyond that state. These are called elder primals. Elder primals usually have a complex elemental affinity, and are entities born of either unique circumstances or ancient civilizations fueled by thousands of years of prayer. Many elder primals have even outlived the cultures that summoned them, simply existing in the world and bringing ruin wherever they are. Some examples of elder primals are Bahamut, all of the Warring Triad, Odin, and by extension, Eureka. However, there's still one more type of primal to discuss, and it's vastly different from what we've covered so far. The last form of primal is what happens when someone takes all that belief in aether only to summon the entity they desire from within themselves. By becoming the host of the primal's powers, they more or less become the spirit or guiding conscience of the primal. No longer is the entity a rampaging ethereal construct born of blind faith. It's a guided force. Mind you, it's still a primal, which means it still demands unquestionable belief and vast amounts of aether to summon from within themselves. But unlike other primals, they have the will to stop and end their own summoning because of the mind its summoner gives them. These primals can try to be reasoned with, since the foundation of their creation was once a person. While many might consider this a safe method of primal summoning, it's no less dangerous. By summoning a primal from within yourself, you're making an offering of your own personal aether as well. In the best case scenario, they're only shortening their lifespan by a few years. In the worst case, they end up using so much aether that the primal form they took devours them, dissolving their physical body into nothing as payment for this power. Examples of these types of primals are Shiva, Phoenix, Tsukuyomi, and the Knights of the Round. However, there are two elder primals in this category worth noting, and they are none other than Hydaelyn and Zodiark. But due to recent events, Zodiark has lost his guiding heart. Since Hydaelyn and Zodiark existed before the Sundering, it's hard to tell if their existence follows the same rules as modern primals, but they were no less made by similar methods. On that note, we'll wrap up our discussion on understanding primals for now. While you may now know the principles, methods, and powers behind primal summoning, there are many kinds of primals born of faith and fiction. Eventually, we'll discuss their unique personalities and powers as well as the history related to all of them. But until that time comes, stay sharp and deny the reckless summoning of primals whenever you can. 12 knows I try to. Good day! Thank you for staying to the end of my lesson. It's my hope that you found something new and interesting in between my ramblings. If you did, consider subscribing and liking this video. Doing that is the easiest way to tell me I'm doing a good job at feeding your thirst for knowledge. If there is a topic you'd love to learn more about that I've yet to cover, let me know in the comments and I'll see where my research takes me. I'd also encourage you to share what you learned here with your friends and adventuring companions, and if they're interested, bring them to the next assembly. I hope to see you and any other curious travelers in the next lecture. Till then, stay safe, my friends.